The McClendon Report. Ask or Ask, Donda's Rules, Suit Shoes. All available at McClendonReport.com.
Beware the F word. Foreclosures are running rampant and Chicagoland homeowners are in desperate need of help. The mortgage crisis has placed a burden on homeowners whose payments have gone up due to interest rates. Losing a job doesn't help either. What should you do when your house is in foreclosure? Deadra Wood Stokes joins me tonight on Garrard McClendon Live. Welcome to Garrard McClendon Live. You know, the mortgage crisis and massive foreclosures have us nervous as neighborhoods throughout Chicagoland show signs of emptiness and despair. Are you currently in foreclosure crisis? Do you have questions on how to maintain ownership of your home? 630-575-TALK is your gateway to the answers. Joining me tonight to ease the pain and provide solace in the stare of foreclosure, attorney Deadra Wood Stokes. Welcome to Garrard McClendon Live.
Well, thank you, Gerard. Thank you.
We appreciate you coming on. We're going to go to James Ramos a little bit later, but first and foremost, what is a foreclosure?
Well, foreclosure is a legal process. You know, there's different areas in the judicial system where cases can be filed, and foreclosures are actually filed in what we call Chancery Court. And Chancery Court is a division that's a court of equity, meaning that we're trying to maintain the status quo. So when you purchased your property, a lot of people believe, or I hear people loosely say, I'm going to give my property back to the mortgage company. Well, you're not giving them anything back, because at the closing, when you purchase the property, you actually go on title. The mortgage company just has what we call a glorified lien on your property. And that lien is usually a first or second mortgage. Now, if you fall into default for some reason, like if you fall behind on your payments, they have to file a lawsuit called a foreclosure action in order to get on title to the property so that they can take the property, try to recoup and recover the money that they actually loaned you in order for them to, you know, recover whatever it is that they spent. And then if there's a deficiency after that's completed, they can come back after you for the deficiency.
So nobody really likes a foreclosure. Of course, the homeowner does it, but banks don't like them either.
Absolutely not. However, I know a lot of people out there are like, I'm trying to work with someone, I'm trying to do what I need to do. It appears that they're trying to take my property. They're not trying to take the property. It's just that they're trying to exercise their judicial right in order to try to recoup or to stop the bleeding. However, they're short-staffed. And they're staffed with people that really don't know. You know, half of the people that's probably on the telephone that people are talking to don't even live in a house, don't even have a mortgage themselves. So when you're on the phone with someone, or with someone that's inexperienced, that's young, that doesn't understand it, or someone that, let's say that they're very overwhelmed, it's hard for them because they weren't ready and they weren't prepared for what is taking place right now.
You know, I'm going to go to James Ramos. James is at the Cook County Board. He's the spokesperson for Todd Stroger. James, talk to me, man. I'm looking today at Senate Bill 2513. It says, which allows troubled homeowners to obtain a sustainable loan workout plan while prohibiting legal action against them. Tell us a little bit about NACA and what your office does.
Okay, well, since the summer of 2008, President Stroger and his administration decided to do something about foreclosures throughout Cook County. So we partner with NACA, Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, to help homeowners basically reset their mortgage loans. In addition to that, President Stroger supported Cook County Sheriff's suspension of foreclosure evictions.
Right.
He also decided to enact a statewide moratorium for owner-occupied home foreclosures in September of 2008.
Yes.
He also introduced a resolution to withdraw Cook County tax dollars from financial institutions that are unwilling to work with homeowners to reset their mortgage loans. In addition to that, we still continue to have our partnership with NACA, and we're doing these workshops throughout Cook County.
Yeah, James, I appreciate that, and I want to go back to Deidra on this. Deidra, was that a good idea to suspend to put the moratorium on those foreclosures? I mean, wasn't there a cash flow problem? I mean, is it right to suspend foreclosure?
Well, I think it was, because what happened is that you had a bunch of people that didn't know what to do. You had some people that I think it was overwhelming for them. You had homeowners that didn't know what's going on. A lot of them ended up getting different types of mortgage products that they weren't even advised of.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't know that the rate was going to adjust. They were promised things.
Wow.
You know, they were promised, we're going to refinance in 6 months. Or, you know what, pay this mortgage right now for a year, and before it adjusts, we'll refinance you, because you know what, it'll show that you have a good credit history.
Yeah.
And then what happened is that those particular companies that were a little bit lenient with their mortgage practices, they were gone.
Yeah.
So then we're back to the conservative type of mortgage lending, and at this particular point in time, it's like, well, where do I go to get a loan?
Yeah, you know what? Let me go back to James, and I got a question to ask you after the break, Deidra. James, did you find that your office was helping a lot of people by suspending these foreclosures?
Well, what we did was basically, in our partnership with NACA, we basically helped over almost 6,000 people. Out of the 6,000 people, 2,700 people were able to reset their mortgages. I mean, we have stories after stories after stories. Even before our partnership with NACA, our office was inundated with calls from all over Cook County, whether it's from Palatine, Markham, the inner city of Chicago, of people just crying for help.
Yeah, you know, Deidra, just quickly, and I want to go into greater detail after the break.
Okay.
Resetting a mortgage, is this something difficult, or is it something that can be done with relatively with relative efficiency?
You know what? It depends on who you're working with. It depends on whether or not it's a lender that's willing to work with you. But you know what? When you have a program like NACA and you have their expertise behind you, then they're more likely you have some type of, you know, credibility behind you. And sometimes the response is faster than you yourself going out doing it. Or if you have an attorney or someone assisting you in that.
Deidra, James, hold tight. Hey, still to come, your phone calls, questions, and comments on foreclosure.
So it's very important that we, in the government, step forward and straighten this out. And that's what this law is all about. That's what this movement is all about. And we all know in our country, great harm has been done to average people and average businesses and the average neighborhoods all across America, all across Illinois.
Welcome back to Garrard McClendon Live. Are you approaching or in foreclosure? Don't panic, but beware the reconciliation scams. We have attorney Deidra Wood Stokes with us, and we also have James Ramos with us. Give us a call, 630-575-TALK. Deidra, let me go to you first. Let's talk about defenses.
That's
what do you
right.
mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of times people don't realize that they have a defense to, you know, their foreclosure action. Like, for instance, at the closing, there could have been certain things that were not disclosed to them in their documentation. There are federal laws, there are statutes that require full disclosure of what type of loan, when it's going to increase, how it's going to increase. The, you know, truth in lending statement must say some things specifically, and people don't realize that. And what happens is when you sit and you don't share it with anybody, you don't go get legal advice, you don't go to any of the organizations out here, you wait a lot of your time frames and your time periods to do something.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you know, from going from 4% to like 7%, that's a lot of money, Deidra.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Deidra, let me go to James quickly. James, let's talk about pride, man. You know, if a person's going into foreclosure, man, how can you get them to admit it and come on in?
It is difficult. A lot of people do not like their business out there. And, you know, if you're a prideful person, of course, you're going to keep it to yourself, not share any information with anybody until it's too late.
Yes.
Many times people have come to me, and this administration, of course, after a workshop, after a meeting, something, and say, hey, James, can I share something with you? I need some help.
Yeah.
But by that time, it's already too late in many cases. But listen, the help is out there. You don't have to be ashamed. There's a lot of people in this situation, from, you know, people in the North Shore of this county all the way down to the
Absolutely.
south end of this county.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Sometimes we can stereotype people
Yes.
in terms of foreclosure. You know, it could be someone who's relatively wealthy. Hey, they can still be going through foreclosure as well. Hold tight, you two. Let me get to some phone calls. JR, thanks for calling Garrard McClendon Live. What's your question or comment?
All right, my comment kind of piggybacks on Ms. Wood Stokes indicating about how people understand the mortgages because it's not clearly explained to them. Well, a big part of the problem why people can't refinance typically after they purchase a mortgage is because the loan is being sold. And so from the original person that they purchased the mortgage from, which typically, especially in subprime lending happen to be just, mortgage brokers.
Yeah.
They're not banks. So
Okay.
they sell them to the banks, and then the banks have different, they have their own different rules regarding, and regulation regarding how you're going to refinance. And that's how a lot of these people have got caught up.
Wow.
The loans get sold,
Yeah.
so therefore they can't refinance
That's
because
right.
that wasn't part of that bank's, criteria when they bought this loan from, who had previously, originated.
Hey, JR, thanks for the call. Deidra,
But-
is it a shell game when it comes to mortgages?
But no, they have to give full disclosure. Even if they sell it to another company, that company is a contract.
Yeah.
And they cannot, it's just as, they can't change it because now somebody else has it.
Yeah.
It's like having, your car note and then another company buys your car note. They say, oh, you know what? Guess what? We know you had a 4%, but now, we like 7%. They can't do that to you
Right.
if you executed an agreement.
Right.
They have to do full disclosure. And that's my whole point, is that a lot of times people have not been all the terms have not been disclosed to them fully and in the correct way, in the way that, and even as attorneys, we're sitting there at the closing sometimes with clients saying, you know what, everything's not here. People are so anxious about, this is my house, I want to close. That's fine. But don't just sit on the foreclosure notice. Don't listen to your friends. Get some advice because your situation is much different than their situation.
Yeah, Deidra, I'm glad you said that. Before I go to break, let me go to James right quick. James, it seems as if when it comes to foreclosure, man, it's a lot of hearsay out
Yes.
there. Are you getting that as well in your office?
Oh, we get it all. We get it all the time. I mean, we get stories from as soon as. Actually, not too long ago, I had a woman who called me and she needed some help, and she was late on a mortgage payment, and she thought that she was going to lose her home.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
contemplated committing suicide
Yes.
because she was told that if
Yes.
she misses one payment,
Yes.
they're going to take her property.
Hey, James, we're going to continue with this after the break. I hear Deidra laughing there. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. I may read your responses on air. Also, hit my blog at cltv.com/GML. Foreclosures are smothering neighborhoods, but we have solutions for you tonight.
So you have all these homes foreclosed, and now each suburb has similar challenges trying to deal with the negative image. Do you think they worry, will anyone want to move here now?
I think that's going to be a concern. The mayor of Oak Lawn spoke about that exactly. He said, when people do start snatching up houses again, there's going to be fierce competition. There's so many houses that are empty now, that have been in a foreclosure, that are bank-owned, or just people trying to move. And so when the market picks up, people are going to be competing for who's going to move where, and you're still going to have some empty housing stock.
What about government funds intended to help, suburbs battle this?
Well, the government funds that were most recently awarded were the NSP funds. That's the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. That is a federal program specifically to counter blight in areas. And so if you have a home in, say, Oak Park that has been abandoned, windows broken, maybe the pipes have frozen, if the municipality determines, or the money was awarded on the county level, so if the county determines, well, this is a house that we should fix up, then that money goes directly there to make repairs and ultimately get it into saleable condition.
Tribune reporter Azam Ahmed. Garrard McClendon Live is back as we take a microscope to the illness of foreclosure. Deidra Wood Stokes joins us along with James Ramos for a healthy conversation on solutions when your house may become the property of the bank. 630-575-TALK is the number. Deidra, you were giggling before the break, but it was nervous laughter. Talk to me. The stories that people come up with, hearsay, a bad thing, and then I'm going to go to phones.
Well, people tend to want to equate their their situation too, people need to get confirmation from other individuals.
Yes.
And from their friends or from their family members. And so they'll talk to a non-professional, not to say that that person isn't smart, but they'll just talk to a non-professional who doesn't know the law and ask them for their advice. And they'll base their advice on their particular situation.
Yeah.
And their situation is always totally different because there's no two people with the exact same situation.
Absolutely. Let me go to Derek. Derek, thanks for calling GML. What's your comment, Derek?
Yeah, how you doing, Gerard?
Pretty good.
My situation is with the home ec department. I'm gonna get it to you real quick. Where I was tried the first time to get that loan modification, and they shot me down. Told me that, you know, I didn't have the right system. So I had to go and actually recruit one of those modification people who knew the formula to get it approved, which I thought was just crazy.
You know, well, let me ask you this, Derek, while you're on the line. Did you hire an attorney before you did any of this?
No, not at first I didn't. I tried to do it on my own, and they rejected me, told me, you know, that my income and all that wasn't matching up and everything. And I come to find out it's a formula, and they don't tell you that. It's a formula.
Okay. Derek, thanks for the call. Deidre, and then I'm going to go to James. Deidre, is it making sense to you here?
Yeah, it does. He's absolutely right. They're looking for, when you call the mortgage company, they're asking you for certain numbers, and you're giving those numbers freely. And they're plugging those numbers into a system, and they're seeing whether or not you have the income in order to, you know, they have a range. They've already evaluated your property, so they kind of know what they're looking at. And he's absolutely correct. In layperson's terms, there is a formula.
Yeah. You know, James Ramos at Trib Tower, scams, man. I mean, there's a lot of people being scammed. Treasury Secretary Timothy Geithner, he warned that cases of fraud against people struggling to stay in their homes have skyrocketed as the financial crisis has unfolded. What is your office doing to prevent this, man?
Well, I'm glad you brought up scams. As we continue to work with NACA with these resetting mortgage loans, I have met with NACA officials, and there has been several mortgage companies charging people $500, $2,000, basically to come to one of our workshops.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's a tough situation, and we tell people all the time, you have to be extremely careful, check their credentials, do not be afraid to call for help, do not be afraid to call, you know, Cook County, do not be afraid to call NACA and confirm the workshop. But there are workshops that are charging to come to our workshop.
That's just not right, man. Let me see if I can get Jeremy in here. Jeremy, thanks for calling GML. What's your comment? Hi, Jeremy. What's your comment?
Hey, I said I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, this is good. I'm looking at myself on TV. But
talk to me. Come on now. Come on.
All right, the foreclosures right now, I do feel sorry for a lot of the people out here. But seriously, the people, let me walk away from TV because I'm hearing the echo.
You got to talk to me, man. Talk to me.
All right. No, I'm saying the foreclosures, it is sad, but a lot of people, they didn't really lose their house like that. They got to these closing tables, and they sat here, and they agreed to terms, so they knew in the door that they couldn't afford. They knew they couldn't. They knew that they couldn't. They worked these two little jobs, their husband and their wife, and they can't afford this $265,000 mortgage.
Wow.
But you know what?
Hey, go ahead, Deidre.
But you know what? That's not the case all the time. A lot of times what happened is that people also got laid off from their jobs. Also, there's been situations where people can refinance. There are people with 750 credit scores that can't refinance right now. You want to know why? Because they refinanced within the last 3 years. They refinanced at, you know, let's say their house was worth $180,000. They got $140,000. They were conservative. They didn't pull all their money out. They got maybe $140,000 mortgage. Wow. Okay, and now they're like, okay, I want to refinance again, but guess what? The property is now worth $120,000. That is not the case.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people in situations like that, and they're like, should I continue to pay on something that's worth $20,000 less than what I'm owing on it? Maybe I should sell it. Then I can't sell it, and so no, it's not always that.
Wow, you know, Deidre, so it's not always subprime, and it's not always variable interest. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Deidre, James, hold tight. It's still time to get a job with our new segment, Who's Hiring? Hey, we got to get final comments in with my two foreclosure buddies here. I'm with Deadra Wood Stokes, and I'm with James Ramos. Deadra, quickly. No, let me go to James first. James, on a final note, should some people just be renting? James, you got 10 seconds, man.
Sure. If that's what they could afford, if that's the situation, sure.
Yeah, and Deadra, as far as losing your house, sometimes it's okay to lose a house, isn't it?
Yes, it is, because you can always recover. There are different things that you can do. You can repair your credit. There's tons of things you can do. So It's not the end all.
Yeah, we appreciate the two of you being on Garrard McClendon Live tonight. James Ramos from Cook County Board's office, and Deadra Wood Stokes from
the law office of
Woods and Evans. Thank you.
That's okay.
I had the website in my head, woodsevans.com.
Okay.
Thanks for watching Garrard McClendon Live tonight. I always ask you all to stay positive, keep your head up, and be encouraged.
The McClendon Report. Ask or Ask, Donda's Rules, Suit Shoes. All available at McClendonReport.com.